Jin-Ho Park wiped the sweat from his forehead as he fixed another broken engine part on the starship Stellar Vista. The engine room was hot and noisy, filled with the hum of machines. He was good at his job, but that didn't stop the alien crew from looking down on him. "Human, you are doing it wrong again," came a harsh voice from behind. It was Officer Krull, one of the Durack aliens. The Durack were tall, strong, and proud. They thought they were better than everyone else, especially humans. Jin-Ho took a deep breath and kept working. "With respect, Officer Krull, I fixed hundreds of these engines. This method works well. Your primitive human methods are not good enough for our advanced ships," Krull said with a laugh. His scaled skin reflected the blue engine lights as he moved closer. "You should be thankful we even let humans work on our vessels." Jin-Ho stayed quiet and focused on his work. He had learned that arguing with the Durack was pointless. They saw humans as a young, weak species that had only recently learned to travel in space. To them, humans were like children playing with toys they didn't understand. Later that day, Jin-Ho sat alone in the ship's eating area. The other crew members, mostly aliens from different species, sat far from him. He was used to it by now. Being the only human mechanic on the ship was lonely. "Mind if I join you?" a friendly voice asked. Jin-Ho looked up to see Ha-Yun, the ship's human scientist who studied ancient alien ruins. She was one of the few people who treated him with respect. "Please," Jin-Ho said, moving his food tray to make space. "It's nice to see a friendly face." Ha-Yun sat down with her meal. "I heard Krull was giving you trouble again. Don't let him get to you. The Durack treat everyone that way, not just humans." "I know," Jin-Ho said, pushing his food around with his fork. "But sometimes I wish I could show them that humans aren't as simple as they think. We may be new to space travel, but we're good at solving problems." Ha-Yun nodded. "That's what I keep telling them in my research. Humans have a special way of thinking. We look at things differently. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones." Their conversation was interrupted by a loud announcement over the ship's speakers. "All crew to stations. We are approaching the Nexus trading post. Prepare for docking procedures." Jin-Ho stood up, ready to return to the engine room. "Back to work. Thanks for the company, Ha-Yun." "Jin-Ho," Ha-Yun called after him. "Remember what I said. Being different isn't always bad. Sometimes it's our greatest strength." As Jin-Ho walked back to his post, he thought about her words. The engine room was his domain, even if the aliens didn't respect him. He knew every pipe, every wire, and every machine. He understood how things worked in a way that was uniquely human. The ship shook slightly as it prepared to dock. Jin-Ho's hands moved quickly over the controls, making small adjustments that kept the engines running smoothly. He might not have fancy alien technology or centuries of space travel experience, but he had something else: human ingenuity and determination. Little did he know that soon, his human way of thinking would prove more valuable than any advanced alien technology. As the Stellar Vista approached the trading post, nobody on board could guess that their next routine mission would change everything. Especially for the quiet human mechanic who was about to discover something that would make the aliens rethink everything they thought they knew about humans. 3 days after docking at the Nexus trading post, the Stellar Vista received an emergency signal. It came from an old ship floating in space. Captain Myran ordered the crew to check it out. "Scanners show no life signs," reported Officer Krull from his station. "The ship appears very old, perhaps thousands of years old." Jin-Ho stood quietly at his engineering station, watching the main screen. The old ship was huge, covered in strange markings. It looked different from any ship he had ever seen. "Durack warriors will lead the search team," Krull announced proudly. "Humans will stay behind. This requires skilled hands." But Captain Myran had other ideas. "We need a mechanic on the team. Jin-Ho will go." Krull's face showed anger, but he couldn't argue with the captain. "Fine, the human can come, but he must follow my orders." The search team took a small shuttle to the old ship. When they got inside, the air was stale but breathable. Their lights showed long corridors covered in dust. The walls had strange writing on them. "Look at this writing," one of the Durak warriors said. "It must be from an advanced civilization." But Jin Ho noticed something odd. Among the alien letters, he saw some that looked familiar. They reminded him of old Earth writing he had seen in history books. He wanted to tell someone, but he knew the Durak wouldn't listen. He sent a quick message to He-Yun back on their ship. "There's Earth writing here, mixed with alien text. Can you help?" He-Yun's reply came fast. "Take pictures. Don't tell anyone else yet. This could be important." Jin Ho carefully took pictures while pretending to check the ship's systems. The Durak team walked ahead, paying little attention to him. "The ship's systems are dead," Krell announced. "Nothing of value here." But Jin Ho knew better. In one corner, he found a panel that was different from the others. It had a simple handle, like ones used on Earth long ago. The Durak had walked right past it, thinking it was too primitive to matter. When no one was looking, Jin Ho pulled the handle. A hidden door opened silently. Behind it was a narrow passage with more Earth writing on the walls. "Officer Krell," Jin Ho called out, trying to sound casual. "I found another passage. Should we check it?" Krell looked annoyed. "If you want to waste time looking at empty corridors, go ahead. We'll check the bridge." This was exactly what Jin Ho wanted. While the Durak team went to the bridge, he and one junior alien crew member named Lax explored the hidden passage. "These markings are different," Lax said, showing more interest than the others. "They look simpler, but there's something strange about them." Jin Ho nodded. The writing was definitely from Earth, but it was mixed with symbols he didn't understand. At the end of the passage, they found a large door with a simple wheel lock, another Earth design. "Should we open it?" Lax asked. Jin Ho's heart was beating fast. He knew this discovery could change everything, but he had to be careful. The Durak would never believe humans had anything to do with this ancient ship. "Let's wait," Jin Ho said. "I need to check if it's safe first." What he really needed was time to contact He-Yun and make a plan. As they walked back to join the others, Jin Ho's mind was racing. How did Earth writing end up on this ancient ship? What was behind that door? And most importantly, how could he investigate without the Durak stopping him? He didn't know it yet, but behind that simple wheel lock lay something that would change not just his life, but the way the entire galaxy saw humans. That night, after most of the crew was asleep, Jin Ho met He-Yun in a quiet corner of the stellar vista. He showed her the pictures of the Earth writing he had found. "This is amazing," He-Yun whispered, looking at the images on her tablet. "These markings are definitely from Earth, but they're mixed with something else. Something very old." "Can you read any of it?" Jin Ho asked. "Some parts. This section here talks about a project, something called Operation Home Guard, but the rest is unclear. They made a plan to go back to the old ship. He-Yun would tell Captain Myran she needed to study the alien writing. Jin Ho would go as her safety escort. The next morning, they got permission to return. Officer Krell didn't want to go back to what he called the worthless wreck, so he sent a young Durak named Tech to watch them. When they reached the hidden door Jin Ho had found, He-Yun studied the wheel lock carefully. "This is Earth technology," she said quietly, so Tech couldn't hear. "But it's different, more advanced somehow." Jin Ho turned the wheel. It moved smoothly, despite its age. The door opened with a soft hiss. Inside, they found a large room. Their lights showed something unexpected, what looked like an old railway handcar. It sat on short tracks that went nowhere, just a few meters in each direction. Tech laughed. A primitive human machine. What a waste of time. But Jin Ho and He-Yun knew better. They looked closer at the handcar. It wasn't simple at all. Strange devices were attached to it. The handles were made of a metal Jinho had never seen before. "Look at these markings," He-yun said, pointing to writing near the base. "This says Mark 7 temporal engine. That's impossible. Humans never had temporal technology." Jinho touched one of the handles. It felt warm, even though everything else in the room was cold. When he moved it slightly, lights appeared in the air around the handcar. "Don't touch anything," Tech ordered, suddenly nervous. "We should report this to Officer Krell." "Wait," Jinho said. "Let me just check if it's dangerous." He pretended to scan the handcar with his toolkit, but really he was looking for more clues. Under the main seat, he found a small screen. When his hand got close, it lit up with Earth numbers and letters. The Durack technology on their ship never responded to human touch like this. "He-yun," he whispered. "This was made by humans. Advanced humans. But how is that possible?" Before she could answer, they heard noises from the corridor. More crew members were coming. They quickly stepped away from the handcar. Officer Krall stormed in with 2 other Durack warriors. "What have you found?" he demanded. "Just an old human machine," Tech reported. "Nothing important." Krall looked at the handcar with disgust. Primitive human junk in an ancient alien ship. Impossible. "We're done here." As they left the room, Jinho looked back at the handcar. In the dim light, he saw more symbols glowing faintly where he had touched it. They were forming a pattern, like a message trying to appear. He knew he had to come back. Something about this primitive machine was very wrong, or very right. Either way, he had to find out what it was trying to tell him. Jinho couldn't sleep that night. The glowing symbols he had seen on the handcar kept appearing in his mind. He knew he had to go back, even if it meant breaking rules. At the quietest hour of the ship's night cycle, he made his way back to the shuttle bay. He had memorized the guard schedule and knew there would be only one guard at this time. "You're not going alone," said a voice behind him. It was He-yun. She held her research equipment and wore a determined expression. "It's dangerous," Jinho whispered. "If we get caught. That's why you need me. I can read the ancient writing better than you." Together, they took a small maintenance pod to the old ship. The pod was so basic that the Durack never bothered to guard it. They thought no one would want to use such simple technology. Back in the room with the handcar, He-yun set up her scanning equipment while Jinho examined the strange handles again. The metal felt even warmer now, almost like it was alive. "Jinho, look at this," He-yun said, pointing to her scanner. "The energy readings are impossible. This machine is somehow drawing power from nowhere." Jinho moved his hand over the small screen he had found earlier. More symbols appeared, but this time they were clearer. They formed words in ancient Earth language. "Guardian's hand," He-yun read slowly. "Activate with human DNA sequence to initiate defense protocol." "Defense protocol?" Jinho asked. "What are we defending against?" Before He-yun could answer, Jinho's hand slipped on the warm metal. A drop of his blood from a small cut fell onto the screen. The handcar suddenly lit up with bright blue light. The short tracks it sat on began to glow. The handles moved on their own, turning slowly. "Step back," He-yun called out, but Jinho couldn't move. The light had surrounded him, scanning his body from head to toe. A voice spoke in clear Earth language. "Human DNA confirmed. Guardian's hand activation sequence initiated. Please stand by for neural interface connection." Jinho felt a strange tingling in his hands and head. The handcar was changing shape, parts moving and transforming. The simple pump handles became complex controls. The wooden seat turned into a metallic command chair. "This is impossible," He-yun whispered, watching through her scanner. "The technology level is beyond anything we've ever seen, but it's definitely human in origin." The voice spoke again. "Neural interface complete. Welcome, human operator. The Guardian's hand is now ready for deployment." Jinho found himself understanding things he had never known before. The handcar wasn't just a machine. It was a weapon system, but not a simple one. It was something that combined Earth's most basic principles of physics and mechanics with technology so advanced it seemed like magic. "Hey Yun," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "I can feel it in my mind. This wasn't built by aliens. It was made by humans, our ancestors. But they were far more advanced than anyone thought possible." Suddenly, alarms started blaring throughout the old ship. Emergency lights flashed in the corridors. Multiple ships approaching Stellar Vista, the ship's computer announced. "Unknown configuration. Weapons detected." Jin-Ho looked at the transformed handcar, now glowing with power. He understood what he had to do, but he was afraid. This ancient human weapon had awakened for a reason. He just hoped he was ready for whatever came next. The Stellar Vista's alarms kept ringing as 3 unknown ships appeared on their screens. They were dark vessels with strange purple markings, and they moved fast toward the ancient ship. "Battle stations." Officer Krell's voice boomed through the communication system. "All warriors to defense positions." Captain Myran's voice followed. "Where are Engineer Jin-Ho and Scientist He Yun?" Jin-Ho looked at He Yun in the ancient ship's chamber. The Guardian's hand was now fully activated, its simple handcar shape transformed into something much more complex. Through the neural interface, Jin-Ho could sense the weapon's power. "We need to tell them," He Yun said, already using her communicator. "Captain, this is He Yun. We're in the ancient ship. We found something important." Before she could explain more, the first attack came. The unknown ships fired purple energy beams at the Stellar Vista. The Durac's shields flickered under the assault. "Shields failing," came a worried voice over the communication system. "Our weapons cannot penetrate their defenses." Jin-Ho sat in the command chair of the Guardian's hand. The neural interface showed him everything. The enemy ship's shield patterns, their weapon systems, their weak points. But more importantly, it showed him how to fight them using simple human principles they wouldn't expect. "Captain," Jin-Ho called through his communicator. "I can help. The ancient ship, it's not what we thought. It's human technology, and it's working." "Human technology." Officer Krell's voice was full of disbelief. "This is no time for jokes. Our advanced Durac weapons are failing, and you think primitive human technology can help." Another blast rocked both ships. The Stellar Vista's shields were almost gone. The enemy ships were moving closer, their weapons charging for a final attack. Through the Guardian's hand's interface, Jin-Ho understood why the Durac weapons weren't working. The enemy shields used complex energy patterns, but the human weapon worked differently. It used simple physics in unexpected ways. "Hey Yun," Jin-Ho said quickly, "tell the captain to move the Stellar Vista behind the ancient ship. I think I know what to do." He Yun relayed the message. Despite Krell's protests, Captain Myran ordered the move. The Stellar Vista took position behind the larger ancient ship. Jin-Ho grabbed the transformed handles of the Guardian's hand. They were no longer simple pump handles but complex controls that responded to his thoughts. The weapon system came fully online, drawing power from principles that even modern ships didn't use. The enemy ships fired again, but this time Jin-Ho was ready. The Guardian's hand activated, creating a shield unlike anything the aliens had seen. It didn't try to block their energy weapons. Instead, it used their own power against them, reflecting and redirecting their attacks using simple mirror principles from old Earth physics. The enemy ship's blasts bounced back at them, taking them by surprise. Their shields weren't designed to handle their own weapons being turned against them. "Impossible," Officer Krell exclaimed, watching from the Stellar Vista's bridge as the enemy ship scrambled to recover. But Jin-Ho wasn't finished. The Guardian's hand had shown him its true purpose, and now it was time to demonstrate why humans' simple solutions could be the most powerful of all. The enemy ships regrouped after their weapons were reflected back at them. Their purple energy weapons charged up again, preparing for another attack. This time, They spread out to attack from different angles. Jin-Ho remained calm in the Guardian's hand's control chair. The neural interface showed him exactly what to do. He understood now why the weapon looked like a simple handcar. It was based on the same basic principles, turning circular motion into linear power. "They're attacking again," Hei-yun reported, watching her scanner. 3 ships, coming from different directions. The enemy ships fired all at once. Their purple beams cut through space toward both the ancient ship and the Stellar Vista. On the Stellar Vista's bridge, Officer Krall and the crew waited for the end. But Jin-Ho was ready. He pushed the Guardian's hands controls forward. The weapon's simple pump motion created something amazing. It generated waves of energy that moved like ripples in a pond, but these ripples bent space itself. The enemy beams hit these ripples and curved away, missing both ships completely. The enemy captains couldn't believe what they were seeing. Their advanced weapons were being defeated by what looked like simple water waves. "How is this possible?" Officer Krall demanded over the communicator. "What kind of technology is this?" "It's not about complex technology," Jin-Ho explained as he worked the controls. "It's about using simple ideas in smart ways, like how a small lever can lift a heavy weight." The Guardian's hand's power grew stronger. Jin-Ho could feel it building up energy with each pump motion. The neural interface showed him the enemy ship's weak points, places where their complex shields couldn't handle simple force. Jin-Ho took a deep breath and activated the weapon's main system. The transformed handcar began to glow brightly. Energy collected in its handles, building up like water behind a dam. "Everyone, hold on," Jin-Ho called out. He pulled both handles back and then pushed forward hard. The Guardian's hand released its energy, but instead of a complex beam weapon, it created hundreds of small metal balls, each one charged with simple kinetic energy. They shot out in perfect patterns, too many to dodge or block. The enemy ship's shields were designed to stop energy weapons. They weren't prepared for simple physical objects moving at high speed. The metal balls punched through their shields like they weren't even there. "Direct hits on all enemy ships," Hei-yun announced. "Their systems are failing." The enemy ship's lights flickered and went dark. They floated helplessly in space, defeated by a weapon that used principles as old as humanity itself. On the Stellar Vista's bridge, there was complete silence. The Durak warriors watched their screens in disbelief. Their most advanced weapons had failed, but this human primitive technology had won. "Jin-Ho," Captain Myran's voice came over the communicator. "Can you make sure they won't attack again?" "Yes, Captain." Jin-Ho used the Guardian's hand to create a simple energy field around the enemy ships. It wasn't complex, just basic electromagnetic principles, but it held them firmly in place. Officer Krell's voice came next, sounding different than before. "Engineer Jin-Ho, I was wrong about human technology. Please accept my apology." Jin-Ho smiled as he kept the Guardian's hand systems running smoothly. "No apology needed, Officer Krell. We all have something to learn from each other." After the battle, teams from the Stellar Vista worked to secure the disabled enemy ships. The crews inside surrendered quickly when they saw their advanced systems had failed. Meanwhile, Hei-yun and a group of scientists began studying the Guardian's hand more carefully. Jin-Ho sat in the ancient ship's main room, explaining what he had learned through the neural interface to Captain Myran and Officer Krell. The weapon had shared its history with him during the battle. "The Guardian's hand wasn't built by aliens," Jin-Ho explained. "It was made by humans, but not the humans everyone knows about. There was a secret group of people on Earth who knew aliens existed long before first contact." Hei-yun added information from her research. "We found records in the ship's database. This group called themselves the Home Guard. They knew Earth would eventually meet alien civilizations, and some might not be friendly." Officer Krell looked confused. "But humans didn't have space travel technology back then. How did they build this ship?" Jin-Ho touched the transformed handcar's controls. "They did it by thinking differently. Instead of trying to copy alien technology, they found new ways to use simple Earth science. They built things that worked with human minds and human ways of solving problems. Captain Myran studied the readings on Heiyun's scanner. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our database. Why didn't humans share this technology when we made first contact? The Home Guard hid their ships and weapons in space, Heiyun explained. They wanted them to be found only when they were truly needed. They left clues that only humans would understand, like the simple wheel lock on the door. The captain from one of the captured enemy ships was brought in under guard. He looked at the Guardian's hand with fear and respect. "We thought we knew everything about human technology," the enemy captain said. "Our scans showed your species was young and weak. But this weapon, it bypassed our shields like they weren't there." Jin-Ho nodded. "That's because you were looking for complex technology. The Guardian's hand uses simple physics in ways no one expected, like using a mirror to redirect light or a lever to lift heavy weights." More scientists arrived from the stellar vista to study the ancient ship. They found other hidden rooms full of human technology that mixed simple machines with advanced science. Each device was designed to work with human minds and human problem-solving skills. "There are more ships like this one," Heiyun said, reading from the database. "The Home Guard hid them across the galaxy. Each one has different weapons and tools, all based on human ideas." Officer Krell picked up one of the simple control levers and studied it. "We thought humans were primitive because they liked simple solutions. Now I understand. Simple doesn't mean weak. Sometimes the simple answer is the best one." As the day ended, Jin-Ho looked at the Guardian's hand with new understanding. The Home Guard hadn't just built weapons. They had created proof that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to solve complex problems with simple solutions. The ancient ship wasn't just a defender of Earth. It was a defender of human ingenuity itself. 1 month after discovering the ancient ship, the stellar vista had changed in many ways. The crew no longer separated themselves during mealtimes. Humans and aliens sat together, sharing stories and ideas. Jin-Ho walked into the engine room, where do-rack engineers worked alongside human technicians. Officer Krall stood at a workbench, trying to understand how a simple Earth pulley system could help improve their advanced engines. "Jin-Ho," Krall called out, "could you explain this mechanical principle again? I see now that our engines waste energy by being too complex." Jin-Ho smiled and joined him at the workbench. This was the same room where Krall had once mocked his primitive methods. Now the do-rack officer was eager to learn human engineering principles. In another part of the ship, Heiyun led a team of scientists studying the Guardian's Hand's database. They had learned that the Home Guard had hidden more than just weapons. There were ships containing medical technology, terraforming tools, and exploration equipment, all built using the same mix of simple human ideas and advanced science. The Home Guard was brilliant, Heiyun explained to Captain Myran during their daily meeting. They knew that different species think differently. They built technology that worked with human strengths instead of copying alien designs. The captain nodded. Other ships are already finding more Home Guard vessels. Each one proves that humanity had greater potential than anyone imagined. News of the Guardian's Hand's victory had spread through the galaxy. The do-rack High Command sent messages praising the innovative human approach to defense. Other alien species began asking for human engineers to help improve their own technology. Jin-Ho kept working with the Guardian's Hand, learning more of its secrets. The neural interface showed him that the weapon could adapt and change, just like humans themselves. It wasn't limited to one way of solving problems. The Home Guard left us more than just technology, Jin-Ho told a group of young engineers one day. They left us a message. They wanted to show that humanity's greatest strength is how we think. We see simple solutions that others miss. Even the captured enemy ships provided lessons. Their complex systems had failed because they were too specialized, too dependent on advanced technology. The Guardian's hand had won because it could adapt and use basic principles in new ways. Officer Krull made changes to the Stellar Vista's training programs. New crew members, both alien and human, had to learn basic mechanical principles alongside advanced technology. Understanding simple machines helps us think better about complex ones, he explained. The ship's mechanics bay now had a special section where old Earth tools sat next to alien devices. Engineers from all species studied how combining different approaches could solve problems in new ways. As Jin-Ho prepared for bed that night, he looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, more home guard ships waited to be found. Each one would teach new lessons about human ingenuity and the power of simple solutions. "We were never primitive," he said quietly to himself. "We just saw the universe differently. And now, finally, everyone else sees it too." The Stellar Vista continued its journey through space, but now with a new mission. They weren't just exploring the galaxy anymore. They were discovering humanity's hidden legacy, one simple solution at a time.